Hi everyone, it's me, and I've been very stressed out. I've been really upset, kind of look that way, bedhead, disheveled. Um, about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, um, Matthew was walking Buddy, and Buddy is our dog. And while they were out, one of the people from the complex who was walking their dog was a little smaller than Buddy. Anyway, she asked if Buddy was a nice dog, and he is. So she wanted to introduce the dogs, and Matthew said, okay. And Buddy started trotting over to the other dog, who growled and lunged at Buddy, and Buddy's knee-jerk reaction was to nip him in the leg. They separated the dogs quickly, and the owner examined her dog, and there was no puncture wound, no problem. So, and she said that, and she even, called it a nip, not a bite. And then she asked Matthew if he wanted to try again, and Matthew said no. He didn't. Buddy was too, upset, and he wasn't gonna chance that again. So they went their separate ways, and everything was fine. Friday, I think it was Friday, we got a call from management, the apartment manager, and they said that basically that Buddy had to go because he bit somebody. Buddy is my comfort dog, and I have had him for 6 years, and I need to have him. So Pam went down to the office with Matthew, and they explained the situation to the property manager. And she said that she would call corporate, but it kind of doesn't look good for Buddy. And I am extremely distraught about the whole situation. Buddy has not been a violent dog. He is no threat, really, to people or to animals. And Matthew, does control him when they're walking, simply for Buddy's safety. And I say that because Matthew was walking Buddy at months ago. Buddy was actually taking a crap and had he was facing a fence, so his back was to an animal. An owner, our upstairs neighbor, was walking her pit bull, and he attacked Buddy while he was, going to the bathroom. She could not control her dog. When he jumped Buddy and got him, Matthew pulled Buddy. So in the interaction of Matthew pulling Buddy away from the pit bull, instead of getting Buddy's head, he got his butt. So we examined Buddy, and there was no blood. It didn't look like it. It looked like kind of like Matthew got him away just in time. But since then, he has a fear of large dogs. So Matthew was keeping him at a distance from large dogs because of what had happened to Buddy. He was afraid. So when this interaction happened, even though it was with a small dog, he basically provoked Buddy and triggered his fear. And so this is what we told the manager. And, so we are waiting to hear, what corporate has to say. I have a doctor's note for, Buddy, and he is my comfort dog. So it's really stressful. I mean, I have had stomach issues all weekend, and spontaneously cry, and plus I have flashbacks from when I was in the cult, the ICOC, when I was in Nashville. Matthew turned 18, and I was staying with another sister, well, actually two sisters, and they said that Matthew couldn't stay there because he was an adult, and he was not a Christian according to their, parameters. And so he would have to go to a shelter. And Matthew asked if he could study the Bible, and they told him no because his motives were wrong. And so they forced me to take him to a shelter because they had me, I was so entrenched in their doctrine, they kind of used that against me, and basically told me that if I didn't do it, that I was disobeying God, that I was going against the church, and that I could lose my place, my soul, my whatever. I consulted everybody, leadership. I went the chain in my Bible talk to my house church leader, to the sector leader, and the shepherds, and everybody. The shepherds told me a couple of things. One was this, God is having this happen so that I would be brought to my knees, and that this was, and I even told them, I hadn't prepared Matthew for the world. I did everything for him. I paid the bills. I mean, he learned how to do housekeeping and cooking, but as far as money management and having to find a place to live and maintaining a household and all this kind of things that I, now realized at this point that he had no experience with and no knowledge of it. I was like, this is my fault, and they were like, and this is a consequence of your sin too, and you remind me of Hagar, whose son was dying basically of thirst, and you didn't, she didn't want to watch him, so she put him on a bush, under a bush, and prayed or whatever. And I'm like, so God is bullying me into getting on my knees and praying to him so, that he would save my son. And it was just, a huge, mistake, and I regretted it, and I still regret it to this day, because I was all he had. And And I felt like such a traitor to him. Anyway, ultimately, I found a place for him with some members of my church who were friends of mine, quasi friends. I mean, they gave him a piece of floor in the dining room that contained a love seat futon and like a clothes rack that was his, and I paid $500 a month for him to be there plus food. I did that for a month and a half before I had a falling out with them and ended up leaving the church completely. Anyway, for them to tell me that I have to get rid of my dog makes me feel like I'm doing the same thing to him that I did to my son. And I can't do that again. Excuse me. A dog is a member of your family. It would be different if Buddy was the aggressor. And if he was an aggressive dog, I could understand that. But he was already attacked, and he had that fear. So anyway, you all know that I was struggling with faith, and I have come to the thinking that God is mostly man-made, that all churches are a variety of cult, and I don't understand the concept of God making us and living our lives here, and then afterwards heaven is supposed to be us praising him for eternity. That just doesn't sound right. But because I have been trained to do so, I struggle with wanting to get on my knees and pray for the situation. It's like, but I don't pray. But, you know, it's screwing with my head. I think about Pam's stepfather, who lived his life his own way his whole life. He'd never had a come to Jesus moment or, did any of those things. He ended up having lung cancer, well, a form of lung cancer. So esophageal.
He had a tumor in his
He had
bronchial.
he had a tumor in his bronchial tube, so they couldn't get rid of it, and he ultimately died from it. But before he died, Pam and I both tried to encourage him to study the Bible because we were deeply into that cult, and he politely turned us down. And his reasoning was this: I lived my whole life without God. Why should to run to him because I'm dying? That's not me, you know. And that's kind of what I feel like with this situation. You know, I don't, I can't believe that God is a bully. If I, it's screwing with my head. It's like I don't believe the God of this world, or this world has brought in. I just don't know what to think, and I am hurting, and I'm struggling with the idea of losing my four-legged son. Thanks for listening.